Check, check. Good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting. Everybody is here. Can I have a motion to the minutes of May 14th?
May 14th. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Okay, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. Can I have a second to my motion to have Rolf as the board chair?
Second. Move to close nomination.
Second. I'm going to, see Sam, I beat you to that one. It's already done. Already moved, table. Yeah, it is.
No, we're done.
All in favor of Rolf being chair?
4.5.
This is us, Lorraine, seriously. It's all yours. I was gonna make sure that motion was getting in right.
Is there a motion, or do we have a nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Marshall.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any other nominations?
Shall I
Tell you what. Go on?
nominate you?
No. I can't be the, what is that thingy?
Parliamentarian?
Yeah. I
It's
can make up
moved and
rules as I
seconded.
go.
All those in favor of Marshall as vice chair? Okay.
You're in charge of vice now.
And is there a nomination for parliamentarian?
Move Teresa.
I don't know anything about it though.
Second. You're right, you don't, but
No.
you'll find it.
You'll learn.
You'll find it. I got faith in you. Yeah.
So if I make it up as I go, I'm good?
No, because
Here, I have a copy
You're
of
good to
Robert's
get us in
rules right
trouble.
here.
We will
Can I
correct-
give it to you?
All right,
we
there, do
will
I?
correct you.
All right, I'll have fun with it. We can do it. All right.
All those in favor, I guess.
All those in favor?
Okay.
This is a new position, that's for sure.
Okay, next item of business is Be the Influence tobacco, vaping, marijuana policy. Laura Morris.
Okay, can I come on in now?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for letting us come in tonight. We hope to make this short and sweet, but we have a very important message. I am Laura Morris. I'm the director of Be the Influence, which we are a coalition of people in the Raymond-Wyndham area, every sector under the sun, from law enforcement to schools, that try to keep youth off drugs. And we are very, very, very concerned at a new product out in the market, which is vaping. We're seeing it. I do a tobacco prevention program for third graders. The third graders already know that fifth graders are vaping. The middle schools are seeing it pretty rampantly. At the high school, the social worker has had 5, on an average, kids come to his office scared to death because they are addicted to vaping products. So this is not a little consideration. This is something that is really concerning for us, and so we appreciate that you're giving us the time to talk about it, so what we could do for your community. So I think a lot of people don't even know what vaping products are, and so I just want to test you a little bit here and see if you know just some of the basics that are pretty important. So I have a T-shirt for whoever gets this first one right, and then I have a lovely little tote bag that we just got at the tobacco conference today for the second person who gets the second one right. So are we ready to play a little bit? Can you hear me in this, or do I even need to be here?
Nope, you're good, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's, you're there because that's what gets recorded.
That's kind of what I thought, so I'll stay right here. Okay, so the first question, and it's a true and false, is one of those Juuls that you see, they look like USB drives, has as much nicotine as 7 cigarettes. True or false?
True.
Yes, Sam. True?
True.
Actually, it has as much nicotine as over 20 cigarettes, a whole pack of cigarettes. And those little Juuls, our youth are sucking down in all the candy flavors like crazy. So here you go. I don't know that it's going to fit you. But you can give it to your grandchild, your child, I'm not sure. Anybody?
Perfect.
Extra
It's
small.
a small. I don't
Extra
even
small is
fit
good
in it.
for 'em.
It has nothing to do
Oh.
with you.
Perfect
Oh,
fit
Lisa
from
can
the
do it,
school.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The
Your
second
arm.
question is, butane is one of the poisons that is found in the liquid of vaping products.
True.
Butane.
Who said that?
Wow.
Dawn?
I don't want the bag, though. Give it to someone else.
You don't want the bag?
No.
Do you want the T-shirt?
Your wife would use it.
Take the bag.
Lisa gets
I am not your wife, though.
I don't want the bag.
Okay. So I'm going to try to hold this up just so we can go with some consecutive information that makes sense. Can you see it? Okay, so we like to say, don't let your life go up in vape, because similar to tobacco products going up in smoke, it's the same thing. It's owned by the same industry. So you think you know vaping? We're going to teach you a little bit about. Can anybody see this? These are the ads. I'm old. 58 years old, and these are ads that I remember when I was growing up. So we lived in a world where we had doctors on tobacco ads, and they were saying, this was Marlboro's my brand, or they were saying, you know, when you're pregnant, smoke, because then you have a lower birth weight baby, and then it's easier to go through childbirth. These were the kinds of things we were saying in the tobacco industry. Camel, Joe Camel was more popular than Mickey Mouse at one given time, which is why we outlawed it, because too many kids thought, oh wow, cartoon character, fun. And then they used beautiful people, they used the outdoors, and so we were duped about 50 years ago to believe that tobacco products were good for us. We now know, absolutely, that it's one of the number one killers in the United States and nationally. These are some of the new ads for vaping. So it's Jennifer McCarthy that young people identify with. It says, freedom to have a cigarette without the guilt. So you see, we are doing exactly what we did years and years ago. We are marketing to younger people, and they are eating it up. They do not understand how dangerous these products are. There are 8,000 different flavors and colors. Mango, cotton candy, ice cream flavors. And so they just believe it to be innocent. So here's another ad, vaping, the new cool. Have you ever heard of ENDS, ENDS, electronic nicotine delivery systems? So that's what they refer to them as ENDS, and we'll just show you a little bit more about them. The juice is what they put in it, vaping is what we call it, vape pens, or we're going to show you what they look like, and hookahs is another device that they use quite a bit. So this is just a basic vape pen, and if you don't know how it works, it has a battery on the bottom, and then they put this liquid right there, and you put it up to your mouth, and it heats up the liquid, and so they suck it into their lungs, and they vape it. It is glycerin-based, so when it goes into your lungs, it adheres to your lungs. So if you think that smoke is really bad for your lungs, this is almost equally as bad. This is another one called a personal vaporizer. It's a little bit bigger. You can see how huge that battery is. That's so that it sustains longer. They're having problems with this, though, that it's combustible, and it's happened a couple of times even locally. This Pax by Bloom is a loose leaf vaporizer. They use the actual tobacco leaves itself. It still vapes through. And then this is the one that we say, Jules, not so cool. As you can you see this? They're colorful, and they look like USB drives. And these are what kids are using more than anything.
They can take those to school, and that
they
very
take it
easily.
to school. The
And do.
resource officer confiscates about 20 a week.
Yeah.
And it's really rampant. They can go online. A kid in middle school can go online, and if they say, are you 18? And you hit a button, you go, yeah. You just order whatever you want. So it's not hard to get. Most kids are getting them from their peers. And again, 200 puffs, 59 milligrams of nicotine in each one of these. We have kids at the school, too, that are saying that they can't get through a sporting event without having to go outside and vape. The bathrooms are jam-packed of kids that are vaping, and it's really hard to know what to do to jurisdict over that, but there's a real concern. So it's taking them by storm. They're hiding them, so they have these now wonderful little hoodies, and you know the drawstrings, you can vape through the drawstrings. They have Tampax that look like, or they're vaping that look like a Tampax. They have Coca-Cola cans where you can put it in the middle and you screw it on and it just looks like a Coca-Cola can. So it's really easy to hide, and they're doing it all the time. This I'm going to bring, I want to be able to talk, but bring a little. Lorraine, would you be my Carol Merrill for a sec? She did this
Well,
at the
you
national
can
conference.
sit
She's very
here
good.
and just turn it this way if you wanted to do it.
Can I?
Yeah, we can all see it that way, right? Yep.
Can
Yeah.
you see it that way?
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
sit down at the table,
Why don't-
you can throw the microphone.
These mics work too?
Yep.
How come it's not up on the screen? What, do we have trouble with that?
Oh, then we
Yes,
can't get it
try
up there.
to.
Can't get it, yeah?
So can you read? Let's just quickly go down, Rolf. If you can even tell me what that first one is. This is what's in the vapor.
Toluene?
Toilet, like, a lot of us can't even pronounce these. So it's the same thing that's in petroleum. What's the second one? Can you see that, Teresa?
I got the third one, benzene, but I didn't get the
That
second
one,
one.
I can't
Yeah, and benzene's pretty easy to say. It's the same thing in
Ex-
lighter fuel and
Extable
charcoal.
something hides.
Formaldehyde?
Can you say it? Extactylhaldehyde. So the point being, it's the same thing that's in disinfectant. Cadmium, which is in batteries, formaldehyde. We use it as a preservative for the dead. The same thing that's in rubber. And we all know that nicotine. Hi. We all know that nicotine is one of the major ingredients in a lot of the vape products, and they'll lead you to believe that there's really not a lot, but they are very strongly present. What concerns us right now is if it's in liquid form, you can put almost anything in these, and so they're finding that they're also vaping marijuana and any kind of other liquid that are worse. I don't know if you can see this, but basically a youth's brain is not developed until the age of 26, not 21, 26. And what happens with nicotine, you're probably aware of it, it is the most addictive substance, more addictive than heroin, more addictive than almost any substance that can be put in the brain. It overstimulates the dopamine receptors and it throws them off so that they don't connect. And what happens is your tolerance just gets higher and higher, and it's very difficult once you start and you become addicted to not crave this product. Very difficult to get off. So what does it do to the body, and particularly these young kids? It makes the heart beat faster, it activates that fight and flight response, obviously trouble breathing, huge damage to the lungs, and it increases the acid reflux. Whoa! So we're very concerned for the youth, not only the brain risks, but addiction. And that's what we're seeing. Behavior risks, harm to the lungs and cardio, and it speeds up the heart functions. Long-term effects are what we were just talking about, but they also a lot of coughing, shortness of breath, wheezing, and because the glycerin is, and the colors and the sugars and everything can touch their face a lot because of the vape, it can crack and really ruin your skin as well. We have very little research in terms of what the long-term effects are, but those of us in prevention already know nicotine is nicotine is nicotine is nicotine. A drug is a drug is a drug is a drug. I was in respiratory care for years. If you put anything other than oxygen in your lungs, you're going to ill repair your lungs. So we don't need the research to know that this is a very dangerous product for our youth. So who's in charge? Basically the industry, and if you look at the way that they're still targeting teens, it is owned by the tobacco industry, in case you didn't know. Again, 8,000 flavors, no ban, so anything can be in them. And if you've ever heard of popcorn lung, they're now thinking that it has to do with the fact that they're flavored and colored, because when those two chemicals combust, they have no idea what it morphs into. And so popcorn lung is basically when the inside of your lung and those alveoli sacs, they get misformed, and so then they get big like a popcorn, and so it makes it very difficult for there to be any elasticity in your lungs. So that's basically what happens when these kids or any of us are using vaping products. And we're not here to scare you. We're just here to say, please understand the education on the other side, that there's many shops here in this area, that if you see youth that are using it, know that we need to figure out how can we stop them from using it. So what can you do? Don't let them target our youth and be duped again. We've been there, done this before. Monitor youth use any place that you can. Help us to spread the words to parents. That's really a difficult one because most of us just don't know a lot about it anyway. So they figure, oh, my kid's vaping and not smoking, or he's not, smoking marijuana or whatever it may be, but really it's just as dangerous. Be aware of the many resources for cessation and counseling. The tobacco helpline is here. I can get this to you. These are better resources on a big screen, but I can get you copies of the tobacco helpline. The CDC has 800 Quit Now. Our website is very big on all of those resources, and that's one reason why I'm giving you those little substance resource guides, because it has everything in it, including the tobacco helpline. But we are really pleased to partner with the District Tobacco Prevention Partners of Cumberland County, who are here tonight, Carlene and Kirsten. And they're going to talk to you in just a sec. Their website is up here as well. Because what we've been able to do is update some policies in the Wyndham area, not only for the school district, but also for the community, the Parks and Rec department. And so it's a very easy process, but it's allowed the schools their own language to be able to have more proactive consequences, but also in public places, parks, and wherever youth and families may be, to better educate them, not only to include vaping, to include marijuana products as well. So I'm going to let them tell you the details on that, and we just want to educate all involved. Yeah.
Can we assume that you are giving this kind of presentation to teachers in the area?
Everywhere. We're everywhere
Yeah, I was
doing
thinking the
this.
same thing in the
Yeah.
schools.
Okay, because really,
And actually-
that needs to be, they need to know how to, you gave me a couple of ideas there, and things I've seen and didn't know they were vaping.
Yeah, isn't
Yeah.
that funny? Well, just, it will make you very happy to know that the schools are quite well equipped with this. The health teachers, including Hayden,
Yeah.
the new health teacher up here,
Yeah.
they all do units in all of their health classes on vaping, and the facts are amazing. The kids are really pulling it. We took 60 kids to the Capitol with the American Cancer Society, and they went to talk to Bill Diamond and Patrick Corey to say, why are they targeting us, and here's what we know about vaping. So the kids almost know more than the rest of us. But all of the health classes of every
I have one,
age level gets this information. But we welcome any presentations anywhere we can spread the word, because it takes a village.
I
This,
think,
So-
this would be good to stick on our website, both sides,
yeah, this is good
Do you mean
stuff that
so?
needs to go on the website.
if we can do that.
Sounds good.
I'm just wondering why kids would want to do this. Is it similar to cigarettes, you know, peer pressure, looking cool somehow? Because,
Your
I mean,
friends are doing it.
cigarettes don't really have any, in my view, I mean, any real health or other values that would
No.
promote them. But people, and I'm as old, even though I look a lot older as you are, and so I remember when,
Oh.
so we were just to Maine about the same time, I think. But people,
Doing some back.
only because you mentioned that at the beginning.
is. I know. From,
Yeah.
I'm
Still
careful
but-
about that.
PR.
Yeah.
But anyway, people did the cigarettes because it was a cool thing to do, and it was
Yeah.
heavily promoted by the media, but it didn't really have any benefits, and so I don't see any benefits to this. Well, is this cool? Why do they do this?
Yeah, and that's an excellent question. We have a good answer to that. Actually, teens are like, if you say, would you smoke a cigarette? They're all like,
I
no,
know,
I would
yeah.
never smoke. But they do not know how dangerous this is, and it's been targeted on social media. It's all over social media, so it looks like people are really cool and they're vaping out of their nose. And so these kids are seeing it day after day after day,
Yeah.
how cool it is, how fun it is. Look at all the flavors. And they've got this fun little thing that someone's trying. And the problem is there's no demographic with this. All kids are attracted. Doesn't mean all kids are doing, don't get me wrong, but they don't see the harm. And so if a friend is doing it and they say, oh yeah, I'll try it, they don't see it as
So
a
it's peer
dangerous thing
pressure
to
like
take.
cigarettes, and then it's the same kind of addiction?
Yes, it's just as addictive. And we know of this one girl that saved $1,500 to go to Europe, and she, a straight A student at the high school, was going off, next year to college, and she spent all of that money on vaping, and she couldn't go on her trip. I mean, it's crazy how quickly these kids are getting addicted, and it doesn't matter who they are; they're everywhere. So.
Do you have a decent disciplinary structure in the high school?
Well, they're trying to do more restorative practice rather than discipline, because really, if we do anything punitive, it doesn't change the behavior, and they go back and they do the same thing. So they do a lot of restorative practice. There are programs called SURF that the Opportunity Alliance does, and so they go through counseling, kind of like, what are alternatives to when you feel stressful, or when you're being peer pressured? What are alternatives that would be healthy for you? So we try to educate them in the other direction, as opposed to nut, and then they go right back to it. Another problem is it gets confiscated, and you go back home, and the parents give it right back to them. So
Oh my God.
educating the parents is important as
Yeah.
well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. My name's Carly Heathman. I'm the District Tobacco Prevention Partner for Cumberland County. Like Laura said, we're so grateful for our DFCs and our partnerships with them across Cumberland County. A little bit of information about us. Every year, Maine receives tobacco settlement funds of about $50 million. And about $5 million spent on prevention efforts across the state. So there's one of me in every county doing this work right now. And we partner with a lot of different areas, but one of the big ones we do is municipality parks and rec policies. And we really hope to do a couple things through these policies. One is to create tobacco-free environments that are safe and healthy for everyone that's using them. So we are looking to reduce exposure of secondhand smoke, and we're looking to reduce youth initiation into use. And as you can see, youth are being confronted. We often joke that no one would want to talk to us about tobacco anymore if vaping products hadn't come around, because we really have done a great job over the few decades educating youth that cigarettes are very dangerous, but they're very unaware, and parents are very unaware of how dangerous vaping products are. And so we've partnered with Laura, and we've been able to work with the school district and with Wyndham to update these policies. And in your folder in front of you, you'll see that we have 3 options for updating a Parks and Rec policy. You can do it through a resolution, a policy, or ordinance. And I don't believe you have any existing language for your parks and recreation facilities, so we could start off with something as simple as a resolution that you pass. It was typed up and sent to you, so you do have an electronic copy of that where we just plug and play. We add your information. And so your language is model language, and it's replicated, and it matches language across the state. The other thing that happens if you choose to work with us to adopt one of these policies is we can give you, I brought a small version. We have very large versions of this sign, but this one's more portable. We can give you really large or small. These are also an option if this fits your situation better. Tobacco signs, and it says this is a tobacco-free area, and it has an e-cigarette and a regular cigarette on it. So it's covering both of those products that we often see at Parks and Rec facilities. And we can give you as many of these signs as you like. We can give you materials. We can do community education events, and it's all tied to updating your policy. And so I just wanted to come here tonight and offer that for you. I had met with Laura and with Don about the policy, and he thought maybe this would be something to bring forward and discuss with you further about. So do you have any questions about this? This tends to mirror any other policy you would have at a park about alcohol, about dog rules. We have a lot of rules that are already at Parks and Rec facilities, and so this is just additional model language that replicates across the state.
I'll lob one out here.
Sure.
On the whereases, it
Yeah.
concerns me that this is an unfunded mandate, so to speak. And how is it enforceable?
So with a resolution, one thing I will tell you is resolutions, policies in general, are evidence-based practice.
Right.
And so a lot of times, especially in the United States, we are very used to tobacco-free areas, just like a hospital. You wouldn't go in a hospital and assume you could smoke there, but a couple decades ago, that wouldn't have been the case. You would have thought, maybe I can smoke inside this building. And so we are very accustomed to tobacco-free areas. And so people are already primed to know that certain areas, especially that deal with youth and health and safety, are going to be tobacco-free. And so what we find is that as long as you have language that preempts it, so you can put it on your website, you can put it out on your social media, and then along with signage, so we recommend you hang these in prominent areas when you enter parks facilities, maybe at a boat launch, in parking lots, areas where people tend to congregate and can see the signage. People are really used to park facilities being tobacco-free anyways, and there always seems to be like this concern, and we hear it every single time that, what are townspeople going to do? People generally are really respectful of the rules. So we find that just front-loading the work by creating this policy, putting it out that you've put this into place, really promoting it, and then using the signage, it tends to eliminate a lot of problems.
I guess we already, our recreation facilities are already smoke-free.
Okay.
And essentially, our enforcement is through ordinance. And so, you know, a resolution is kind of a nice warm fuzzy, but it has no bite.
Right.
The only thing that has bite is if it's in an ordinance.
We have
That's the other-
ordinance language if that's what you
And
prefer.
so,
Yeah.
if we already have ordinances existed, then maybe it's, the action item is to look at it and see if there needs to be any amendments to that. But the resolution really doesn't do anything.
Okay, so I couldn't find an ordinance, so I apologize. I did take a look at the website, and I couldn't find
I
an
think it's
ordinance.
under, I think it was a policy that was passed a number of
Okay.
years ago.
A couple, so probably likely the language doesn't reflect the new products like e-cigarettes that we were just talking about. Likely that's not reflected in the language. And also marijuana is probably not reflected in the language. And so part of the updates of using our language, using this model language, is we could provide you the new signage and the new language that goes along with the new products on the market.
Might be interesting taking a look at what they can provide us for ordinance wording.
Yeah.
We go from there,
Well, I mean, it has the ordinance right here, ordinance template.
you know, give you a little bit of time to read.
But I guess the
Yeah.
first step is to actually have Sue and Dawn look and see what,
Yeah, I think
because
we,
I know that we did, I know there was an action taken, and it was about
Right.
4 or 5 years ago to make the beaches and things like that all smoke-free. So that would be the starting point. See what actually was done there, and then work from there.
yeah, from memory, I would say that it was a policy, not an ordinance, but I could be wrong. We could look at that and see, and I do know we have prohibited policies for our various parks and beaches on any number of things, as you outlined, you know, on pets, on waste, on smoking, you name it, so.
But
But we definitely could take a look at it and see.
And the other
I think it would make sense to incorporate it into that.
The other issue that would come up is you take two of the facilities, you take Tasseltop and you take the the boat launch, and those are both quasi-state. So it's not, they're not just town of Raymond entities.
Right, we would have to run the policies by the state of Maine in the case of the boat ramp, and as a courtesy, probably Tasseltop as well. Both of those are administered by the town of Raymond under agreement license.
And Don and I were on a task force for the hotspot committee as to where kids were using a lot of drugs and all, and I think some of the bus stops.
You hear the voice pops on.
Boys. Don and I were on a task force, we call it the Hotspot Task Force, just to reduce where kids were using, basically. And there were a couple of identified spots there, too, I think a bus stop. And so really, the signs just help, kind of, you know, like Carlene was saying, is just to, when they see that, then all of a sudden it becomes a rule, even though they know it. So the signs do help.
So would it make sense for us to go and look at the applicable policies that we have for our public facilities under ownership and management, incorporate the relevant language with their help into it, and bring it back for consideration and possible approval
Yes.
as soon as possible?
Yeah.
And I just want to be clear, as I move forward and template some stuff out for you, you're looking for a policy level.
Well, as Rolf points out, if you don't have something that you can enforce,
Right.
it really doesn't have any significant meaning. It has I think it has a spirit of the town meaning, but you're looking for something that's enforceable.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, if you run into an issue, it becomes, is it enforceable or not?
Right.
And
And then, of course, with our
Frankly, I
policies.
appreciate you wanting to talk about ordinance language. No one ever wants to talk to me about an ordinance, so it's always like, what's the easiest path? So, and it's usually resolution, so I'm really excited that a town wants to talk about anything beyond a resolution.
I'm not seeing
Don't-
anything in our ordinance.
Don't get too excited though, because once we have a policy or an ordinance, we have a policing issue, and we've got to work, of course, with
Yeah.
Cumberland County. That's the policing entity of the town of Raymond.
Sure.
So we need to probably meet with them, or you need to meet with them if you have not already, to, I guess, to impress upon them the importance, significance of this issue for
Yeah.
youth. And I think they do get it, but it's a priority-based enforcement issue. You know, they have lots of things they have to do, and I'm sure that's true of the Wyndham Police. This probably isn't high on the Wyndham Police agenda either, but that's gonna be the issue for us. Putting in an ordinance first issue, making it prohibitive, then trying to enforce it with a law enforcement effort.
Wyndham's seen a reduction in It hasn't been.
No,
That's 2 times in one night.
I think Wyndham is seeing a real benefit because when people see the signs, then they're not even trying as much, so they just see a reduction in the use. Now, the enforcement, I can't speak on that, but I will say, you know, if you wanted to talk to maybe Linda from Parks and Rec or someone to see what their results have been, I think they would say it's been quite positive.
Sure.
What I find for policies for the select board's approval goes back to 1997 at Crescent Beach.
Where did you find the policies? Because I'm looking under ordinances and I'm not seeing.
Oh, I'm looking on our server, and I'm looking at an index that I've made of selectmen meetings.
Okay.
Well,
Would it have been a town meeting vote?
No, it
No.
wouldn't have been a town, it was
Okay, it
done,
wasn't an ordinance, it was
as
a
far as I
policy.
know, it was done at the select board level, because I remember there was some hue and cry back when it was done.
we have a bit of a mishmash. I think we have that was done, and I remember it too, at the select board level. I know the 97 action, all that predates me.
No, this
And
was
then-
when I was on the board, which is like 6 years. Yeah.
And then we have, we have policies that we've tried to standardize for our parks and beaches, and those may just be an amalgam of the prior, decisions made by the various governing bodies. In the case of Tasseltop, they have specific rules. The state has rules that they want us to enforce. We have, over time, Nathan and Dawn, I guess, come up with some common sense rules, which I won't go through. Some of them are pretty not nice things that happen at our beaches, so we try to make a sign that would incorporate all those things that we prohibit. So maybe we need to organize and codify what we're doing and incorporate this into it,
Yeah,
maybe.
I would say the first step is see what we have, and then see where we're trying to get to, but, the problem, otherwise you run into, you've got part of it done here, part of it done there, part of it done here, and nobody knows which way to look.
Yeah. That's why this is so, we can provide even press releases for you, that this is a big push, and we tend to do that with towns. So a lot of it is just front-loading the education. Did you know that all our parks and recreation facilities are smoke and tobacco-free? Or we provide language for the health and safety of all Raymond Parks and Rec facilities are smoke and tobacco-free. So we can really front-load that language and push it out to the public. And it's something that probably a lot of them already assumed anyways and have put together because they use the facilities. And so really it's just an awareness raising that happens. And people are generally very respectful of the rules, just like there are, most rules. And the hope is, I know you guys have lots of visitors during the summer, and so with really good, prominent signage, visitors are also made aware when they come onto your property.
Questions?
Just to answer Selectman Sadek's question, the policies on our website are under documents.
That's what I looked, and I only saw ordinances, so that's why.
Yeah, it's right underneath ordinances. If you simply click on the word documents, it will bring up all of the various things.
And that's probably what you researched.
Documents,
Yes.
ordinances.
I think I
Yeah.
used your little
And-
search bar for
and the-
tobacco.
Okay.
Good. Well, thank you
you.
for having me.
Yeah,
I
we'll
always
do.
enjoy being out here.
Yeah.
So we'll be in touch.
Yes.
As the clerk and I will be in touch, and we'll try to identify what we have and see if we can't get this together and get back on the agenda soon.
Okay, good. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Next item, discussion of subdivision and town roads.
Hi, good evening. Bob O'Neill, and I'm here representing the planning board this evening. And a while back, actually a good long back, during the major development phase cycle that we were in, the state put forth various proposed plans that communities could adopt if in fact it fit into that community. And one of those plans that we did adopt was the open space concept plan. And that worked, if on the planning board level, that worked extremely well. It allowed us to, the best thing it allowed us to do was to keep open space in the subdivision, kind of conform to the rural character of the community and what everybody likes, and also to maintain trails that would otherwise have been interrupted with the subdivision. Another proposal at that time, or another, proposal possibility for that was put forth for towns was kind of a road and right-of-way phase in the development. And the goal of that was to ensure that subdivisions that were built would be connected to each other, to cut down on road cuts to our major or secondary roads, to allow for, you know, allow for a faster emergency response, allow for less travel for trash collection, less travel for school bus runs, and it also allowed for a higher level of maintenance on those major roads, on the subdivision road that went through, commonly referred to as a loop road for subdivisions. The problem with that, or not so much the problem, but the trade-off with that is that building those roads are expensive. And the developers and or landowners puts an added expense on that road. A major subdivision has to be, the roads have to be brought up to town standards, but the road itself can still be gravel. In order to become a town road, it would require it to be paved. It'd be the same structure of the road, it would just be the top of that road. So there are lots, I mean, there are a lot of advantages and there are some disadvantages. It's very hard to give you a cost basis of whether or not this is going to would cost the town more money to do this in the long run. My guess is that it probably would. Because those loop roads or those connected roads would have to be out of the road association world and into the town road for maintenance. The advantage, though, to that is that as those roads erode, and we know that gravel roads export much more phosphorus than our paved roads do, that if we were to build these connected roads or push development towards those connected roads, we would have road associations, different 2, possibly 3 road associations that would be maintaining a loop road, which would probably not work. The issue kind of came up a little while back when we were looking at a subdivision, and that subdivision was going to have connections to another subdivision. That other subdivision was a rather old subdivision, small subdivision with a very poorly maintained road. And that then was kind of brought this back up into kind of the fore, is that do we want to be, what happens when that is connected? You know, what happens to that other community that is maintaining probably a road for 5 or 6 homes, but now all of a sudden has connectivity for 10, 12 or more dwellings that are going to be going over their road. So that's the thing. So my mission tonight is to ask you whether or not you want the planning board to proceed in a way of researching this. There are 5 of our surrounding communities already have this in place. Westbrook, Gorham, Gray, Standish, I'm missing one, and Wyndham. Already have this in place. But to do it, it requires the town accepting the road after it is built. And I know that is not something that the town has been doing. So before that, the planning board, before we wanted to put in all of the time and effort to kind of get this thing into a proposed ordinance that we can even start looking at and seeing how it would work within the community, if in fact you guys accepting a town road is just a non-starter, it's not worth us even then kind of moving in that direction to pursue it. So that's kind of my question to you. If we proceed and we come up with something that is workable, would you guys entertain accepting that major loop road within the subdivision, or is it just a non-starter?
To begin with.
To begin with, yeah.
To begin with.
To begin with, exactly.
Acceptance of a town road is a town meeting action.
Right.
It's not a select board action.
I understand that.
Select board could make a recommendation on it, but the actual, so even if, the point being, even if we were to say, yeah, we think that's a good idea, the town meeting may turn around and say, no, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, and the town,
Yeah, but you
and the
said
town can turn
feedback
around
from us,
ordinances, you know, we've had ordinances turned around from the
Yeah.
planning board before, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no sense, if you guys are gonna say no,
Yeah.
it's no
But I
sense
mean,
even.
you know,
Exactly.
for a practical if, you know, I mean, going kind of back in history, the theory had always been, if it fully met town standards, including of the paving and whatnot, then it could be entertained as a town road. If it did not, then it wasn't even talked about.
Right,
So I mean, what you're doing is then saying, oh, you know, the contractor has to understand he is taking on somewhat of a risk because it is a town meeting issue.
right, okay.
And so they, you know, they have to go in with their eyes open that way. But, you know, from a cost standpoint, what are our additional costs? Our incremental costs in there, we've got incremental in plowing, because you're adding some plowing there.
Sure.
And then you take the 20-year plus cost on there, and you're gonna have maintenance on that
Yep.
going down the road. You know, but I think you'd also have to make sure that there's, you know, wording in there that, you know, that, I mean, obviously it's gotta be approved by the road commissioner and whatnot, because drainage is always the big issue on those.
Yep.
And if it's not, then all of a sudden we're looking at, you know, 10 years down the road instead of 20 years down the road, big expenses.
Right,
Well, but I think also too is, I think what I've seen in the past is subdivisions are getting built and they have this crappy little road.
correct.
And so meanwhile, guess what? The builder has got his money. You know, he's already got the houses in it, and then he's out of there. And then you left these people that are living on these roads are falling apart, they're small, and everything else. So I would like to see them be built to standards. And I know that's something that a contractor has to take on, that cost. But then if they build it up to standards, town standards already, which I think that should be a requirement, then it's ready to be taken over by the town if the town chooses to vote it.
Well, for a major subdivision, it is required to be built to town standards, it just does not have to be paved.
What is, so what is I guess like one with just a couple on there? What, I mean.
That's a minor subdivision, five homes or less, 5 lots or less.
All right, so they can still do this little dirt road to go in there
Well-
and,
Not a little dirt road, but it does not have to be built to the same standards as a major subdivision.
okay, so then it comes into the fire and rescue service that, once again, is if these
Correct.
subdivisions are going in, that I think that they should, maybe we as a town should be saying, we need to change the standards and get it voted on as to whether it's 5 and under or over, and I don't even know if that's a possibility. Does
Well,
that make sense?
I think the major problem in the smaller subdivisions with the road is built to standards, but it costs money to maintain those roads.
Right.
And with a small subdivision, that's a lot to be put on to the homeowners that, you know, that's their expense, that they have to pay to maintain that road.
But it is, but once again, if the road is all beaten up like we just went through with the whole Gore Road thing, then what happens again, we have the public safety,
Right, and which
And
come back to
everything's-
you to say,
Right.
why don't we have a decent road?
Exactly.
Right.
So it's kind of like, okay, we're kicking this ball back and forth, and who's going to end up with it?
Right.
You know, and yeah. So I guess I would like to see something out there that says there's got to be a standard almost for all of them. You know what I mean? And I know it's on the homeowners, but they take that on knowing that they're buying into that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the enforcement of the road association that's the
Yeah.
difficult part.
Okay.
Would you apply this to certain zones or all zones in town?
We apply it to all zones, but it wouldn't be, you know, whether or not it would be a mandatory thing or not a mandatory thing, is, you know, all those details we have not really discussed.
Okay.
But it would apply to any place where it made sense, basically. And, you know, so it would be in every zone.
So you would.
Do you think,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so you're gonna take each situation as it comes and look at it, is what?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
Do you think that lowering the town standards would encourage more homes to be built?
you mean lowering the town standard on road construction?
Right.
No, I don't think so. Roads, the constructing of the roads, from my experience on the planning board, the road construction has never really been an issue
Okay.
that has come up. that they've, you know, that the builder or developer has complained about, having to build to certain standards. Most of them are, I mean, almost all of them, you know, that's not an issue.
They just pass it on.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, essentially, they wanna know what the rules are.
Right.
And the rules being applied equally, that's.
Yeah, yeah.
If they are, then they're happy. If it appears arbitrary, then
Correct.
that's when they have a problem.
Right.
Sure.
Yep.
Coming off of the left-hand side of the field here, have you looked at
Yep.
cluster sewing at all? Cluster sewers?
Cluster homes,
Cluster sewers.
clustered sewers. You know, that has come up. We've looked at it on one development, I believe, on Valley Road. We were looking at
Right.
clustered sewers. It's not specifically in the ordinance, but and so that we have not specifically addressed it. Would you like us to?
That would be interesting. No.
No, I asked the question because that would have more houses in a cluster sewer. I don't know.
I'd say wait till it comes up and then say you have to then research it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It may not even come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about open space and all that. Okay.
Yeah, well, with the homes closer together, you know,
That's
in,
more open space.
you know, that would make sense.
Don?
I was just thinking, to me, the experts that we have in-house are our planning board, our consultants, our code officer. So if things are happening in other communities, we should certainly take a look at that, and maybe not adopt it obviously wholesale, but take a look at what's happening elsewhere, and if it comes up with a situation that is a more efficient administration and/or policy regulatory environment for our town, then come to the board. What's unique and unusual is that you've come here seeking guidance beforehand, which is really, I think, a nice thing, and I think the Board of Selectmen would appreciate that. I do, but I think it doesn't hurt to study and to look at what other people are doing, and
Should be looked into.
then come back and have a discussion.
Yeah.
Why not?
No, I mean, I'm all for that, but if it was like.
A
again, you know,
non-starter?
if
If
it's
you're saying
non-starter,
no, don't do it, yeah.
just-
It takes a lot of time and effort
I get
to
it.
put to put an ordinance together, even a proposed ordinance, and to put all that time in, just to come and say, we're not gonna do, you know, go away.
Well, you
we're
get
not
the
taking it
planning
away.
board, the select board behind them, and then you get the budget, budget finance doesn't really do on it, but you get a bunch of people
Well,
behind it then.
But I guess my
Yeah.
point is, if you think it's important and something that the town should pursue, then that's
Well, that's
sort
why
of,
I'm here today.
that's sort of the charge of the planning board.
Right.
But I get, it's a circular argument in a way, because I understand your point too. Don't want to invest a lot of
Right.
time and effort into something that doesn't meet the, I guess,
The goals.
goals of the regular
Right.
governing board.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it from the standpoint that, if it's a better road, it's gonna make it easier for the life of the town anyway, from a rescue standpoint,
Right.
from a maintenance standpoint and things like that. My big concern is, and I don't know exactly what the best way you check on this, but if you're creating the perception that if they do this, it is a fait accompli and it's gonna be accepted, there is that danger that the town meeting can always say no, and is there any recourse then that the contractor has to come back on the town?
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's something we'll
That's a good
definitely look into.
I think generally, once you have these things in place, in my experience in other places where similar things are in place, if it's approved originally by the town meeting, then the follow-up, discussions and votes would be attendant to that original approval, along the line of, well, we approved this ordinance on such and such a date, these other subdivisions were, reviewed and approved for road acceptance under the ordinance. They've met all the criteria, the relevant staff, consultants would speak on it, assuming no anomalies or, divergent issues, you would normally, although you can never predict what a town meeting will do, you would normally see the town meeting, upon recommendation of the governing board and planning board, approve said roads.
So if you did that, if you actually built that into the ordinance, that provided it meets standards X, Y, Z, that it would then be accepted as a town road, and the town meeting votes that ordinance in, Doesn't that solve that problem?
I've always seen it go to another vote. I think that may be possible, you could look at that, but I've seen the ordinances approved setting the standards, but then it always comes back to another vote for acceptance of this particular road, because I think that may be called for under law.
I mean, because your ordinance is your law.
Yeah.
And so if you now have said that, and now the town meeting has voiced its opinion and approved that, then as long as A is met, that, but that's something that obviously we'd have to get.
Yeah, we'd have to get a legal readout on that. I mean, it makes sense. I get your logic.
Yeah.
And the other thing to consider is, anytime the infrastructure the price of the infrastructure goes up, the price of the homes go up. So that's another consideration in.
Means less subsidy
But
for
that's also,
Raymond.
that's also the sales side, which says, okay,
Yeah.
it is a little bit more because
Right.
of this. If not, you do know you're gonna have to join a road association, you're gonna have this fee.
Correct.
I don't know, I guess I'd wanna buy a house on a road that was nice and taken care of. I'm on 85, it's not being taken care of. Sorry.
Sorry, I guess that's
That's a whole
go
nother
ahead.
issue.
So is that a yes?
Yeah.
Go?
Yes, yes,
All right, thank you.
Good,
Thank you.
thanks.
thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Next.
Consideration of issuing supplemental tax for tree growth withdrawal. So Kayla was gonna do that, but who's gonna?
Am I doing
who's
this?
gonna talk on that?
Okay,
Don.
so it looks like we have a couple here. They're both related to withdrawal from tree growth by Chase Custom Homes of Westbrook. Map at lot 16-098 is $8,120 supplement, and map in lot 16-099 is $5,520, for a total of $13,640 supplemental
So,
tax.
need a motion on that? So a motion to give them their money back.
Second?
No, we're going to make a motion
you
to
have-
take some money.
We're
Wait a minute,
taking,
no,
we're
it's-
taking money.
It's giving it, no,
No,
requested
it's-
that the person
they're
be
taking it
withdrawn.
out of tree growth, so what's coming back to us is what was sequestered under tree growth, so this is money coming back to us.
I just-
We're assessing them.
I
this
just made
amount.
brownie points with Chase. I mean, seriously, by
We're
giving
not
them money
giving
back.
them money, they're giving us.
That would be an abatement. This is a supplement.
right.
Do we have any idea what the street address is on these
Yes,
pieces?
it's,
Yes, right here. 290 Bridge,
No,
oh,
that's-
that's
no.
the home one?
No, the map.
Do you know,
Got 'em back
it's
here
it's on the
today.
Valley Road, right?
Is that Valley Road?
I think it's Valley Road subdivision, yeah.
Okay. Move that we accept the tree
okay,
growth.
what you, actually,
Or is it
Right here,
wrong?
it's showing.
well, so there's two things we gotta do. We have,
I don't know, I'm not seeing.
we have to first do the supplemental, that's the tax. Okay, so the tax warrant, so we need to,
Page, this tax certificate, this one?
the supplemental tax warrant, that's the motion. So read that motion.
He's gonna do it. I was willing to give him money.
So the motion,
Yeah,
the motion,
Yeah, he's
Had to read it first so I understood it. So the motion is to,
go to the next page,
tax.
next page.
They did certificate
Okay.
warrant, that's all we have to
Okay,
do.
that page.
Oh, this one here.
That's the motion is to accept,
Alright.
is to accept those, because then that leads to this.
all right, make a motion to accept the tree growth withdrawal under Chase Homes map and lot as cited before in the amount of
$640.
$13,640. Thank you.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in favor, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That was a little confusing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm just sleepy today.
Okay.
You'd rather be.
And we have to, well, the tax certificate, we don't do the motion,
Right.
it's just this.
No, just that.
Well, let me just hold that for you here. So.
Lonnie can start.
Thank you, sir.
No, that's a copy over there, guys.
Don't sign the copy.
sign one.
Okay. That's next.
You only get one
I'm just
sign.
hoping they didn't send down something on the
Usually
electrical personal
not
property
there.
now.
Oh, we gotta sign the
No.
second page of this too, right?
No, that was the, there was
Everywhere I put a red flag.
Got it.
You'll have to use your pen, this one is worn out.
I just signed the first one. Leave that one off.
His ideas.
Oh, and this one. I don't even know what that is.
that's, well,
Do you need that one yet? I am so glad he's as unorganized as I am when I'm running this show.
okay. Consideration of writing off uncollectible property, personal property taxes. Sue Carr.
Before Sue talks, I want to say she is awesome at her job. She is awesome. She tries, she calls, she talks. She can be a little private investigator, researching things out, and
Don't go too far.
I
she's
haven't given her appraisal yet.
oh, well, she's really good at working with people, and she'll call me and give me updates, and she does. She works some miracles. She really does. So I want to say that. So yeah.
Thank you.
Now she's built you up.
Yeah. Now I have to ask
Don't
for these
don't-
to be
don't fall
written
down
off.
Oh, no, I already know what it is. That's why.
I have researched, and the Cocatosi ones, they've all moved out. They've moved out for quite a few years. The businesses, they're closed, and we still have them on the books. And Indian Point, that one was, 2 people owned it, but really only one person sold it to another person, but we were taxing both of them. So they were being taxed twice, so one of them has to be written off, the one that sold her property. Also, I have called Cocatosi.
Tell them what they said.
Well, I've talked to a lot of people from Cocatosi, and they've told me that they were told to forget their tax bills, that Cocatosi would be paying them.
Yeah.
I've called Cocatosi twice now, and I'm trying to get him to return my phone call to find out what's going on. I have a funny feeling that years ago, that was true, but that no longer is true.
Now, when
I
you
just-
say Cocatosi pays the tax, they pay the real estate tax, but not the personal property tax.
Personal, yes, this is all personal property tax. So we've been taxing these people, they've been throwing the bill
Yeah.
away. And I have noticed that most of them stopped paying in 2010. So I have a funny feeling something took place that year, or the year before, and I sent out letters to all these people. Only one person really responded, and she did pay. And I told her, I worked with her, she did not want to pay the interest because of the situation. She was told to ignore it. And I worked with her, and I said, yes, I will write off and that was Colette. I'm writing off all her interest on that, because if that's what they're being told, it's not really their fault. Also, Fisherman's Catch called me today. I've been trying to find his address to send him the tax bill, which by law I don't even have to send him that. I finally decided to send it to his home. He's called me. He's going to think about whether he wants to pay it or not, because he thinks where I didn't send it to him, that it's my problem.
How much is it?
It's $1,200 and something.
Did you send it to his home or to the place of business?
To his home.
I'd say either one works. He's gonna think about it.
Because we had an address that was not,
Okay, so what's the address on his liquor license application?
You got that.
I believe his address is 1270 Roosevelt Trail.
He called me, so,
He called you?
and I suggested, he's acted stunned by this. And I suggested that he contact the town manager and go through that process to see
Was that real estate?
Did
what
you get a
can be
call?
done. He said it, what,
Personal.
10 years?
Yeah,
10 years?
9 years.
10 years
Is
and
there
only
some
$1,200
sort of
bucks.
thing that you
Yeah,
can,
it's $100 a year,
yeah,
that's.
can you work something out with him where he doesn't have to pay it one big check?
She works with everybody.
Yeah, I will work with payments, always.
Sure, okay, well, that's,
This is
With
the personal
everybody,
property.
I will work with payments, I always do.
Ask-
Refrigerators
what-
and coolers.
The refrigerators and coolers and stuff like that?
I don't know if the assessing department even has exactly what his equipment is, because I talked to Kayla, and she said she had the same address as I did, and every year they send, you know, equipment, please verify your equipment in your business, and she's never gotten a response from him either.
Well, wait, I'm sorry, wait a second. So where have you been sending the bills to?
I don't know what the address was now.
But they haven't been coming back?
They have been coming back, but I don't know.
Okay. Nope, I didn't know. All right.
Well, why don't you have him come in and see me, sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
something's wrong there. Because
yeah,
he's always in the, running ads in the local stuff.
I mean,
yeah, it's a good business
It
there,
is.
but I mean,
it-
you know, we should have a good address for him, because it should be what's on his liquor
Well, that'd be the
license.
first step, is to see if the address we're sending it to matches the address that he's provided on his liquor license application. So that's the first step. You know, there is something, as Sue points out at the outset here under law, that, you know, and this will sound silly probably to you, but the notion of a tax billing, even a personal property tax billing, is under law more of a courtesy item than a legal requirement. I mean, it's a reminder that you have taxable property and/or taxable personal property that you know, need to take care of. And so, it's amazing to me a little bit that it could go 9 years and you wouldn't know anything about it. But I'm open to that notion, but I think he's gonna have to convince me of that, and we could sit down and talk about that.
I mean, when I have homeowners tell me, you know, I didn't get my bill, I always tell them, by law, I don't have to send you a bill. When you buy real estate property in a town in Maine, you know you're going to pay real estate taxes. That's probably everywhere, yeah.
And you know, if you have business equipment, I mean, as accountant, people
Right.
should know that if you have business equipment, I'm sure there's tanks and other things down there, refrigeration units, those things are taxable under law, and so, but I'm open to his argument, but let's see what that is. And we'll look at our address.
But that's not on this list right now, anyway.
No, that's not
Yeah,
on the
she's
list, I'm still
Nope.
trying to collect it.
So we pass it to Dawn on that one.
but we can work with him, right?
Oh, yeah, I will work with, you know, I've told all of these that, the people that have called, that I'm willing to take payments, whatever. I just want them to realize that
Yeah.
personal property is taxed, and they are, you know, they do have to pay it.
And the other thing we have to look at is under law, what's the situation for something that delinquent, and we'll look at all that.
Yeah,
Also look at the liquor license to see if there's a provision in there where his taxes have to be up to date.
Right.
well, we were told that the state would not give him his liquor license if we called them, which I did call them, but obviously he's gotten his liquor license
That's kind of
anyway,
last
so.
resort, I think, here.
Okay, well, let's move on the article that.
Can we go back to account number 77 first? Can you explain that one?
77. That one was set up twice.
Okay.
That's Kokatosi, that's another thing, we have to rely on Kokatosi giving us, the people who own it. And if they don't take them off the list, we keep charging them,
Yep,
and,
that's fine, thank you.
yeah. She sold it in 17, so,
Okay.
Okay, so, I guess the other thing, the one that Indian Point one, is that, I mean, that's really not a write-off, that's actually a reversal.
well,
Because essentially, if you were double billing, you're just correcting the bill, so it's not a write-off. That's a
Yeah.
it's a reversal, it's
it's
not a
on the
write-off.
books, though, as it was committed,
I need to go.
It's an error and omission correction, though.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the amount is not enough.
Right.
But, I mean, in theory, that one, you could've cleared that anyway, because it's a bill that never, it should never
Right.
have a.
And I didn't know that until I did the
Yeah,
research,
until
you know? It's like,
All right, so can we have a motion for the write-off on the 47-1802?
So moved.
well, there will be some interest, or that I'd have to write off also.
Okay, 471802 plus interest.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried?
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't know what it is, but it seems like when I walk through the door, everybody leaves, so I don't know. This is-
It was their time. It wasn't any.
Yeah,
Okay, consideration of annual staff appointments. Sue?
This is just what it says, the,
Drive safe, Sue.
see ya.
Thank you.
the annual, do you still want me to be a town clerk, Kurt to be an assessor, et cetera?
Oh, jeez.
It's a
do we want
formality.
more than that?
Harbor master.
Can we put
Harbor
this
master
one on?
and general assistance officer now,
Mhm.
until we have a new
Yeah.
hire. But yeah, I've been doing that.
I mean, there's no changes from last year.
That's correct.
So make a motion to accept the appointment municipal officers of municipal staff.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Let's see. Appointment of annual board and committee appointments.
And the number of boards are only one-year appointments. There are a few that are three. Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, and the BAR, Board of Assessment Review, are 3-year. And so there are only a few people on those that need to be appointed since they're staggered terms.
Okay, so just these are just the new, I guess I'm kind of shocked why we don't have all of them. All the people on the planning board on there.
Because they have staggered terms, only 2 are up
Yeah.
for, have expired terms this year. We don't want the entire board to expire the same
Right.
year and potentially lose everyone at once.
Okay.
Conservation Commission should have John Rand. I don't have it on mine.
It's on this one.
Yeah, I sent an
Yeah.
email this
Oh,
afternoon,
okay.
yeah.
It's on the one you'll sign.
I did not put John
John
Rand on intentionally on the first one
on mine.
because I had contacted him to come in and get sworn in last year. And he didn't, and I tried several times to email him and with no response. So I emailed last week and said, would you please come in, let me know whether you want to do it for the next year. I didn't hear back from him until today.
Did he come in and sign it?
He still hasn't signed last year's oath, no. And another gentleman, Jim Ross, didn't either, and he didn't get back to me, so he's not on your list. They can suggest that he's reappointed, but
Is there a motion to appoint the municipal officer?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried? Consideration and annual update of fee schedule.
there aren't many changes. On page 2, there's a plumbing fee change, and it's where the state has changed their fee from $80 to $150. And we record that in our fees so that people can look in one place and see everything they need. So that's not really up to debate, it's more of a housekeeping item. The other is Bruce noticed that for the fire department on page 4, that we didn't have the wood stove permit and chimney inspection. It's for $25 listed. So that's to be included. And then the finance director was looking at the fees and realized that we hadn't updated the bounce checks fee in a while, like 20 years, so.
It spread through like wildfire through the town.
So-
All right, I have a question for you guys regarding these fees, and I don't know if this is the place because I'm looking like it is. I happen to be talking to somebody, and we have different, I don't know if it's ordinances or what. I'll use the example. You know those sandwich signs down on 302? Those advertising
Yep.
sandwich signs?
Yep, holding.
Yeah, they are not allowed to be out there out at night, is what it is. But we don't have any kind of a fee for those, but they're illegal to do it because it says it in our zoning thingy. So what do we do about that? Does that make sense?
You talking about a fine for leaving them
Yeah.
out?
But I'm wondering if there's more that we're just missing.
Normally what needs to happen on that is that the enforcement action is by the code officer, and I don't know about a fine. I don't, you
Yeah.
know anything about that?
I think
is,
if
it
there
would be
were a
in the-
fine, it would have to
It
be
would
either
be-
defined in the ordinance that there was a fine.
It wouldn't be in a
Or
fee
it
schedule.
Or it could say that the fine would be listed in the fee schedule.
Well, I was talking
They
to
could
Scott.
go, I think, either way, but it still is an ordinance change.
I mean, I was talking to Scott about it only because you're seeing so much more out there on that road than when people pull out, that I was just questioning him about it. And
Maybe you
he-
want
he-
to.
Well, he looked in there and he says there's fines, but it doesn't say what the fines are. So that's why I don't know, you know what I mean? What would you do to clean that up? Does that make
Fines would have to be defined under ordinance somewhere, I think.
Do we have a sign ordinance in town?
Should,
We did a new sign ordinance two years ago.
We could have a fee for that.
Should.
gonna require some research, I think,
Yeah,
right?
it should be inside.
Well, and I guess I would say is if there's anything, or ask, not say, I mean, if there is anything else like that that would have that kind of a fine thing that we don't have a thing for, we just clean it up. Does that make sense?
Gonna take a little research, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I do understand it.
Okay.
So
I
we'll
just
have
didn't
to-
know where it would be at.
We'll have to report back on that one.
No,
right?
that, yeah, I figured, yeah. All right, so a motion to
Motion.
accept the fee schedule and, yep, fee schedule.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Excuse me. Okay, RSU 14 withdrawal committee update. Oh,
Tax warrant list.
huh?
I already did that one.
Our next meeting is June 24th, at which time it'll be an executive session meeting to look at revisions to the separation agreement. But we are still looking for people to go online and put in information to help on subcommittees for the finance side, for the programs, for the town cooperation and things like that. So people go in there and look. There's a we call it an application, but it's not really an application. It's more of an information form. What things are you interested in, and name, address, and phone number, so we can get some people working on that.
If I could jump in on this one, Mark Eastman and I have opened the door for budget talks. And I would really like to have that committee expanded to at least somebody that has a child in the school system, so that they can have an input, okay? It would be silly for just Dr. Eastman and myself to make the final decision. I'm very uncomfortable with that, so I'd encourage anybody that has an interest in how this budget's gonna go to apply for it, so.
Well, people said they don't know. I mean, we have a big divide, and that
Right.
divide is people that want it, people that don't know anything about it. So it's time for people to come
Right.
out and get involved to say
Right.
what's gonna be.
And the
our
money side
town.
would be a good place to do
Yep.
that. Thank you.
Any public comment?
She's not a resident. She's not a resident.
Yeah.
First time ever you've had no comment.
She usually
Yeah.
hears that line, but. Selectmen comments. Teresa.
Okay, Lorraine's gonna like this one, because this is about her. She's laughed through this whole meeting. She likes coming to our meetings. All right. So one of the big issues that we have in this town is, besides present company, is getting communication out there. You know, it is, and we cannot put things through the schools, because that's a big avenue with families and stuff like that. So, okay, so I'll give him part of the credit for this, Rolf. He has suggested, you know, we said about doing a survey, just a quick survey, and we did it the day of elections. And we just put it out there that says, how do you hear your communications? And we literally, I listed like 10 different things, and I had him check it off, and at the bottom I put, what would you suggest, anything different? And it went from the town signs to the town website to the newsletter to the Wyndham Eagle to the Keep Me Current Suburban to neighbors, friends, Facebook. There was a good list. I think the Wyndham Eagle actually came in first. And now, But I have to say, I think we had 200 how many votes?
We had 200 and, well, on election day, we had 204. There were 15 absentees.
Okay, so I thought it was a pretty good turnout, 54, responses is what it is. And I don't know, I know we were gonna put it in the town to do more.
And no one has filled it out yet.
Okay, no, I'm not surprised in this. I think one of the ones that was really wicked cute was put in the newspaper again, but also adding coupons for Burger King, Wendy's, and McD's, which was really cute, I thought, you know what I mean? And so what I'm going to suggest something, and I want you guys to think about it. In this town, we have umpteen people trying to do it. You know, the town office is trying to wear multiple hats. Kayla with the Facebook page, you doing the signs and the newsletter, you trying to make all these different meetings going around, and we have different groups with their own newsletters. I would like to, and I talked to Dawn about this, I would like to hire in town here, and I'm really kind of grasping at, I guess, the hours, because I don't know what it's going to take, is maybe 10 hours a week, a person to be our communications person.
Have you seen my resume?
And I said that. I said Sam was going to say that too, didn't I? And so here's my take on that is it would be the person that would be updating the Facebook page, updating any articles that would need to be sent to like the newspapers, getting the newsletter out, anything that we can do to get communication going and keep it moving. I didn't know this. At the bottom of our town webpage, there's still the Roadrunner articles on there by John Hanley. Kevin Woodbury told me that. He still puts some on there. Nobody knew that. And so what I'm looking to do, and of course we're in selectmen, so it's not, you can't vote on this, but it's to get somebody in here that can help with this. So it's not somebody just adding something last minute and go, I guess they would go to the different departments as to what needs to be done.
Well, we had this sort of person when we had John Hanley as a contractor for us. It's somebody, I mean, to do this in the way that it needs to be done, it doesn't have to be an employee, it could be a volunteer, but it's gotta be somebody these days who's up to date with the range of electronic media, somebody who can do, desktop publishing, somebody who has, design and layout, if you're doing that. I mean, maybe we can work with the Eagle and not have to do as much of that, but it was a significant undertaking. It would be a really ambitious and talented volunteer, or it would be somebody that you had to pay, as we did John Hanley, on a contract. And he did an excellent job. He may be interested, I don't know, but
I
this
would
is
say pay
a,
them.
but right. But I'm just saying, Sam had mentioned that the volunteer piece, it could be, or at least I thought he was
I
possibly
don't think you were
volunteering.
talking about volunteers.
Well,
Yeah.
but to add,
I would volunteer, well, we can talk about this
Yeah.
later, but I would volunteer to oversee whoever you have doing it, and, not come in and sit down for hours and that sort
Well-
of thing.
That's
But
why
I'd be
that's
glad
why I was
to-
pointing out what it
To look
involves.
at your strategy and,
Yeah.
well, but I want to add to this now too. And I called Don the other day and I said, I'm on a new mission. He goes, don't you have enough missions right now? And I said, no, this is my new one.
Let me stop you here.
No,
before you
hold on a second. Let me get this out all the way.
I tried.
Yeah, you did. I also want to see if we can start sticking that insert in the Wyndham Eagle like we had talked about. So that is another one of my goals is to take this person that's going to do this and oversee the articles to make sure that it does go into the Wyndham Eagle. And I thought I said the wrong paper for a second there. And because right now what's happening is we're paying fees right now to publicize planning board meetings, zoning board of appeal meetings. That can go on one of the pages now that would be part of our Raymond thing. But at the bottom, people were writing, the Wyndham Eagle, get the insert back. Even the Wyndham Eagle comes to my house, get the newspaper that we can pull the insert out and that type of thing. And I forgot to list it home, sorry, what the comments remain. I'll send them to you guys. But I think it's something we need to explore. And what I will do before our next meeting is find out what the cost would be, and I think we've talked about this, I think Sue, you called before, but we would have maybe either a 2 or 4 page or whatever insert in the Wyndham Eagle, and that way where it's already getting done, but we need the communication. And if you guys haven't figured out, and we're gonna put this now on public, is On 302, the public safety building is now advertising all the things that are being displayed at the town office. So they're saying the same things. That was another huge light for people, is seeing signs, seeing the same message being on both signs. So keep that in your brain. I'll be pestering you guys with it.
If you look at the old issues of the Roadrunner, a lot of the fodder that went into that was school stuff. And if we had an avenue into the school, you know, the softball scores or the play that's coming up or something like that, I think we need that as part of this.
I think we can add that. I
Okay.
think, because especially the plays would be advertising, the softball games. But again, that would be that person's
Right.
their sole job would be,
So
what's
that
the
scope would
communication
be-
in town? Yes.
As wide as possible.
Yep. So even 4 pages we can. And
I'm not sure about that.
well, no,
Because-
that's why I said.
No, I'm saying I'm not sure that it's as easy as you think it would be for the school, because what I found with the RSU is that it has to be consistent with what Wyndham's doing. So if Wyndham's doing it, then it's something they would do. But the policy has to be consistent that way.
No,
And-
because
And because we had our, One Raymond program that had a number of things that
Yep.
were town and school cooperation, but when we went with the RSU, those things ended. So I wouldn't just blanket say that it could happen. And then, of course, when they instituted their policy that no town information could go in there, take it home, newsletters for their children, that was also a change that to me is, anti-community, but it was something that they did because they felt it was diluting their message. But then they wanted to come and use our messaging for their messages.
Right.
So I wouldn't just take it at face value that you're gonna get the school to
well,
participate.
no, because you have parents, you have PTOs. So what happens? PTAs. The Raymond PTA can turn around. They're the ones that put the flyers out that say about the play going on. Do you know what I mean? Wyndham has PTO. And so what happens is we take off of that from the PTAs. We have parents that are parents.
John Deere tractor.
Oh, that's still gonna come back, isn't it?
Well, I'm just saying that I wouldn't
Well,
assume.
no, well, so-
Sure, you can do it through the volunteer PTO.
Exactly.
But you're not,
Okay,
yeah.
you're trying to finish the project before you've decided what the project is. So
No,
let's first decide what the project, let's first get the concept started and flush that out, and then your detail side comes from that.
No, you know me, I'm the kind of scatterbrain that I'm gonna put as much thought in your head about this whole thing that I can fill it to make you think about it for a while. This is what it is. He's the ABC guy. I'm like, I throw it at you the way it is. So I will get together some kind of information for the next meeting, if you could put that on there, Rolf, for the next meeting, and with what we can get and where I can get the information from, and see what you guys wanna do.
Perfect, perfect.
Other,
Communication and apathy is
So-
two big problems in Raymond.
One comment about the survey that was done at the election day, and I told this to Selectman Sadak. I'm kind of putting on a prior hat at this point. The sample that you have for your survey is very qualified. Those are people that always come out to every election. If I showed you their history, there are 50, they've gone to everything, every time the doors are open, they are there. They're people that stay informed.
right.
So,
But
yeah.
They
where,
help
where,
you.
where it becomes a little bit more binding there is, those are the people that are out looking for information. And
Yes.
if they're not, and what we asked is, where are you getting your information? And if they're saying, well, here's where we get it. If we know at least they're getting from some there, then that's, that's an area to look at. But if they see a deficiency too, and they identify that,
Yeah.
that's a big clue too, because these are people out there looking, and this is what would help them find it more, so.
Well, and I'm not suggesting that it's worthless
Yeah.
by any stretch,
Oh, no.
but just that, I think that
worked
needs to be
hard.
kept in mind, is that
I
it
worked
is a
so hard
highly
on that.
qualified group.
So so that way I'd love to dip into the Wyndham, because Wyndham Eagle was definitely at the top up there. Yeah.
Okay, town manager's report.
Okay, so the first thing I have is confirming the dates for the upcoming regular meetings. Assuming you want to have a July meeting, it has been your fashion in the past several years not to take a summer hiatus, but if you don't want to do that, we're suggesting July 9th, and then for August 13th. And we could play the July meeting by, if we need one, we could
Yeah.
schedule one. So,
When do we need to switch money? July?
Switch money.
What she's talking about is if not switch money, what she's talking about is if you have a department that's gone over budget, we have
Do you know what's scary?
we have to move money
Is he
in order to
understands
be able
me.
to close the books.
Yeah, that could probably happen in August.
You just lowered
So-
yourself
so-
to my standards.
What?
You understood what I said.
I actually didn't, so thank you, Rolf. That was very good.
Well, you know,
Free talk, please.
All right.
It'll be a tough meeting in August.
So I'm
but I
not
mean,
clear, is there
I mean, that would be
July?
that really would be one, July 9th would not be a good one for that anyway, because she's not
not ready.
she's not gonna be
check.
ready
I
to
mean,
see
I'll
whether
make
we
it
have to move
August.
anything, whether we have to do any.
So you either set a meeting
we might be able
for
to
July
reschedule.
9th or some other date in July, or we could, if we had a pressing issue, we could contact you and arrange a meeting.
I mean, we will cover that, and if we have to do any budgetary change moving, we'll do that in the August meeting.
Right.
But, I mean, there's really nothing pressing for July right at this point, is there? So what's the board's feeling? Do you want to have a July night off?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
So
around.
we'll scratch the July 9th meeting unless we have to have an emergency meeting for something, in which case we'll call that in the appropriate manner.
Okay, so then the reminder of, and August 13th is okay?
Yep.
Okay, so reminder of upcoming holiday schedule, Thursday, July 4th, Independence Day. And I would like to just say, as far as the town activity, I sent you a couple photographs today. We're off and running. We're getting the Raymond Hill Cemetery ready to go. There have been some people, and there's people out in TV land who are wondering, so what happens if, the unfortunate occurrence of a untimely death should occur and the cemetery's not ready? Great question. The cemetery's gonna be ready. We'll be ready when you are, so that's. Next issue is the Goro tree work.
You better quote that, seriously.
Yeah,
No,
so Goro tree work, so that's, we're gonna do a little smoothing of the gravel too. We haven't got that. There have been a number of people who've been after Nathan, because Nathan did commit to doing some smoothing up of the existing road. He will do it. We're going to get on that just as quickly as we can. But I sent you a photograph of the Q team doing some contract tree work. So we're getting the trees back at where they need to be, so we can get the right-of-way established where it needs to be without any kind of hazard or impediment for vehicular traffic. And so that's kind of a good occurrence that came out of town meeting. We're still working. We have a draft of the agreement with the town of Gray. We had some suggested changes, which our town attorney is going to communicate to their town attorney. So that may be the thing that if we had a quick meeting in July that we bring back to you. So we're off on summer work and things are going well.
All right.
Need a motion?
We have motion to go into
Motion to go into
executive session.
executive session?
Pursuant to 1 MRSA, section 405, 6D.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, we are now in executive session.
Motion to come out of executive session?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all those in favor? Meeting is adjourned.
You've been